Hello and welcome to my Arduino video project. So essentially I've set up this project in a way to control multiple sounds on SynthEdit using infrared signals sent from this remote right here, and it basically sends these signals through to a receiver, which is this one right here. And it will control these LEDs, making them light up and also display a different sound for each one. The idea of this project is just to make something a little bit fun. Let me show you how it works. So, first start with that one. And I've also created it so that the number 7 will actually turn off all of the LEDs currently turned on. And number 9 just does something a little bit crazy. Okay, so I'll give you a brief rundown of how I set this up. So each pin is connected through to the breadboard on a 220 resistor on its plus side to ground. And then I've also, with each one, set them up in the same way with a wire connecting it to a digital pin on the Arduino. And this allows me to essentially manipulate it later on by telling it when I want it to light up, by which button command on the remote itself, and what sounds I want it to essentially play when it's picked up by the infrared receiver. Okay, so also I've included, as you can see here, an ultrasonic sensor. This is designed to pick up when something breaks a certain distance between the overall circuit and an object in front of it. As you can see, I've got my light board here over 15 centimeters away, so it's not going off. However, if I move this closer, then it will activate this buzzer here, just telling off anybody that gets too close to the circuit from approaching it. Okay, the last component I would like to go over is essentially the MIDI lead itself, which is this lead here. It's connected to a 5 volt on the breadboard, and it's also connected to the digital pin TX, which is then just wired into the laptop itself, and the laptop is basically generating the different sounds that I'm using. The next part I would like to go over is the code as well. So first, I'll just quickly go over what I've done on SynthEdit. I've basically just made it with a basic synth that I just added in from the default menu with the MIDI in, and then essentially just to activate it, just click on the power on. Now I'll go over the actual coding structure itself as well. See at the top here, I've got the infrared remote library, which I downloaded as from GitHub. It was essentially an open source thing. People have been editing it for a while now to control different ways of how the infrared remote can pick up different signals and how it will work in general. Just how I practiced with this. I've also put in here a variable for the receiver, which is connected to pin 2 at the moment. And then I've defined each different variable for which button on the remote here is and what signal it's going to send. So the part of the code you can see here, OX times FF30CF, that's basically the signal that is sent through from button 1. And then underneath that, I've put in different variables for the LEDs themselves and also put in what digital pin they are connected to. Also talked about here separately, these are the variables for the ultrasonic sensor and the buzzer, which is all connected as part of one, which is why I just tried to keep it a bit neat and tidy and separated there. It's also going over different variables of the duration, the distance, and the safety distance for the buzzer to go off, which is just telling it when to start, when to stop, how close and far away it should go off, and what the safe distance is for it to completely stop. Okay, so the serial begin part is essentially defining the MIDI lead itself. It needs to run off this significant value here. Most normal components tend to run off of 9600. The MIDI is a bit different though because of the processing power that is required for it. I've gone over different pins here and the outputs they're going to represent. And then first on the void loop, this is where things start to get a bit more interesting. The first thing that's being defined here is all to do with the buzzer and how much distance I want it to be, when it's essentially going to be going off, and what its duration will be for going off. Else it's been set to buzzer on low, in other words, not going off at all. Okay, so focusing a little bit more on the buttons themselves, each of the buttons do have a pretty standard code, except for buttons 7 and 9, as I mentioned before, as they do different things. 7 turns everything off, and 9 makes them all go a little bit crazy by flashing on and off and playing a sound for each individual one. But the basic buttons, they essentially have just been assigned, so when they are pushed, it will turn the LED on, it will play note 80 on, make a delay, and then it will essentially turn it off. And it's the same throughout most of the buttons. As you can see, button 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are all the same. And then go on to 7, which is just basically saying that each individual LED should be on low, so turn them off, and play a note just so you can hear that they've all been turned off as well. Number 8 is another standard note in the middle. Number 9 is where it gets a little bit mad, as it plays the same note. As you can see, there's only one instance where I need to actually define the variable. Every other time I just need it to play, so there's no need to really define it again and again. But I have just gone through this to make it a bit more simple and put it so each individual LED and then the note will play for it, which comes to the end of the code. Okay, I have gone slightly over time with this video, but once more I'd just like to show you what it does. So let's start from the beginning again. Okay, and the distance sensor. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.